whoever wants to come up here and answer some questions. Mike, you've got some questions, so if you'll come up. Anybody else, guys? Don't be fucking shy. You just pretend it's like the pre-stream cam, and you'll. I always say that they're like flies to a light, or what is that? Gnats to a light, moths to a flame. As soon as the pre-stream camera comes on, they're in front of it.
Oh, thank you. I'll just stand. Yeah, why not?
All right, so while they're getting situated, I'm going to introduce everybody because not everybody's up here. I'm going to start down here. Stand for a second. This is Shane Gordon. He is our segment producer. He is responsible for Heroes and Halfwits. He edits that show. He produces that show. He deals with that show in every way possible. He is an awesome photographer and videographer. He worked with So You Think You Can Dance. He's worked with Fox for a number of years. He's been in a lot of places, and we're very lucky to have him. Thank you. And then over there in another, I guess this is a backwards cap. Oh, well, let me go first with you. So this is Nicholas, our floor manager. Yeah, I almost didn't recognize you. He is responsible for every set getting changed out. This guy makes the floor move like I've never seen anybody do. And what's amazing is that he has never broken a single thing. Other people have broken shit. He has never broken anything.
Stab.
And I'm so amazed at that. Over here we have Cody. Cody is our lighting grip. If you've noticed any of the new lighting and anything that's gone on there, he is responsible for that. He's been an incredible addition. He just joined us about a month or two ago. He worked on a number of live action things, and very glad to have him. You'll see some exciting, everything you see from Tuesday Night Game Fight, lighting wise, he's part of that team, a big part of that team. And then we have Michael Lindblad, who is our technical director and production producer. He is responsible for all the tech that goes in and out of the switcher. He is also the director of On the Spot, and he is a big part of Extra Life. He and I, who else did 24 hours that day? The four of us did the entire 24 hours that day, and that was an incredible time. But Michael's been an incredible addition. And then there's Mariel. Grab a chair. Grab a chair.
Damn it, I stood up.
Nothing?
And then, I'm introducing them because that way we can get into this quicker. So, this is Gavin Cantrell. He's our assistant director. He is also our lighting director. He's been responsible for the way everything looks as far as lighting is concerned, but he's also oversees the tech part of the department so that I've been able to concentrate more on the creative side. He has a background in theater, and he'll talk more about lights in a bit. This is Nick. Nick is our audio manager. Everything that you download from iTunes or anywhere else that you listen to, Nick is in charge of that. But he's also sweetens the audio that you hear, and he's also one of our game producers on Tuesday Night Game Fight. The guy in the blue cap is Bryan. Bryan comes to us from Screw Attack. At Screw Attack, he was their tech guy. He was it, and now he's a big part of our it. So he is helping Michael with streaming. He's also one of our technical producers. He's the director of Death Battle Cast, and very lucky to have him. Behind him is Peyton. Peyton is the director of Always Open. Peyton was the fourth hire that I made, and like my fourth intern. and he's also the editor. God, what you edit a lot of shows. Theater Mode, Glitch Please, a lot of different things. He's been an incredible part of the team and one of our longtime members. And then next to him in the cap is Justin. Hello. Justin is who I call the fourth cast member of Theater Mode. All the graphics, all the stupid graphics that you see in Theater Mode, Justin is responsible for those. And those come from his own wicked mind. You know, the cast doesn't suggest any of that. That is just him and Peyton watching what they do as they do it and making notes, and then they make it come to life, and he's incredible. All the graphics that you see on our shows come from Justin and also Bryan Beam, but Justin does, I would say, 80%, if not 90% of what we do. And then all the incredible stuff you see during Tuesday Night Game Fight, it will be coming from Justin. Guy in the black shirt and the glasses behind them, that is Mike. Mike is our sound engineer. Mike comes from a long, he's a veteran of radio, like I'm a veteran of TV, and so he and I always have a lot to talk about. But he's really brought a new level of audio to the department, and finally got rid of some of those ugly ass lavs and mics on the set and that sort of thing. So that's all due to him. And then the guy in front with a big beard, this is Ben. Ben is one of our newest hires lately. He's our production assistant, but he's transitioning into an editor as well. He does a lot of the editing for the shows like Rooster Teeth Podcast and some of the shows that have to go in overnight. And he's also you may recognize the back of his head from Glitch Please. The side glitch, yeah, that's him. And then next to him, that is Tyler Stab. We like to call him Stab. Stab is he's the producer of Theater Mode. He is the poor soul who is responsible for watching and selecting and making sure those horrible movies make it to the cast. And then, how many times do you see each movie? 2 or 3 times. He has to watch those movies 2 or 3 times. Yeah, so that's totally on him. But he's also our graphics guy. He runs our Casper system like a champ through On the Spot, fan service. All those heavy graphic shows are all due to him. And then on the end there is our big sister Mariel. Mariel is actually the first hire of broadcast and one of my first interns, so she and I go way back. And Mariel is really our department coordinator is more than anything. She makes sure that everything that we need is taken care of. She makes sure that the guys are fed. But she really is my right hand woman. She like, oh my God, I can't tell you, like Tuesday Night Game Fight would not have happened without her. Like all the auditions and it's just like anything I need, I just throw at her and she's just always coming through. And so she's awesome. And let's give her a round of applause. And then one of the names that you'll hear a little bit is Christian, who is our new contract hire, and he starts on Monday actually. So he comes to us from UT Austin, and will be working with us as an associate producer and a production assistant. So we had a question for Mike as to what microphones we use.
All of them?
Is there a mic we can go? Yeah.
Was there a specific microphone you were interested in, or just all of them?
All of them.
Okay.
Oh, God. My show. There's a
Okay,
lot.
so we recently switched to using pretty much wireless lavaliers for everything, just because it's cleaner and easier, and we don't have to deal with cast members who talk into microphones like this. So we use Sanken COS 11D microphones, and they're really good, kind of industry standard Japanese microphones that they're not the best, they're not the worst, but they're good, solid, and they work really well for what we want to do. We have Electrosonics wireless packs that we use, and then on the podcast, you see we switched to Electro Voice RE20s, which are radio standard mics, because we wanted the podcast to sound a little bit more like a radio show. We're about to upgrade the processing on that next week, so we'll see how that goes. And then on the spot, you'll see that we have some boom mics that are there, and those are mostly for decoration these days. But those are Audio-Technica Pro something mics. I forget exactly, but they work really well, and we use them for a lot of other things too. I think that's it. I think that's all our microphones. Anything else?
Boom mics for off-topic. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
shotgun.
we use shotgun mics for off-topic, which we're not going to talk about because it makes us crazy. But those are Sennheiser shotguns, I believe.
They're okay.
They're okay. They're good shotguns. They're really high up, and so they don't always pick up the way we want them to. But that's with off-topic. You just have to go with the flow.
Next question. Oh, sure. You're gonna make me walk. I know, right?
Hello. As someone who's currently in college as a broadcasting student, I kind of want to go into what you guys are doing, like internet broadcasting more than like TV broadcasting. What would be some like tips for like breaking into the industry as someone who is going to be going out of college soon?
Get an internship if you can. I went to school for film and TV also, and I think I learned more at my 1 semester long internship here than I ever did in a classroom. And then it also led to this job, which was nice. But even apart from that, if I hadn't gotten hired here, I still think that internship would have been one of the most valuable things, because you learn so much more by doing than you ever do by like just sitting in a classroom reading textbooks and stuff. So I would say get an internship and get hands-on experience as soon as you can.
I would also add to that you never know what task or what skill you have might get you the next job. So having gone from, in school doing sports broadcasting at the student station, working on instant replay, then having an internship where it was more camera work and video editing, which then turned into streaming and learning, Wirecast, which is software, and audio and mixing and streaming and just all that business. The more diverse skill set you can have, the more chances that someone will also try to find a spot for you, because the more versatile you can be in their skill set and their work environment.
Yeah, any experience you can get actually either being behind the camera or working with the equipment, other than just seeing how it works. Having that experience going into it really gives you an edge, and also experiencing all the different levels and aspects, like all the different positions that you can do, really opens the door for how you can get in.
I would also say just never stop learning. I don't have a technical schooling background for broadcast. I have a background in IT, but I kind of just threw myself into a lot of the work and freelancing and learned what I could. So.
I would say coming from traditional media into the internet thing, like don't not try out the traditional media stuff, because they're always upping their game as well. They do just as much streaming now as they do over-air broadcasting. So there's still a lot to be learned there.
Next question. Right here, we got one. Okay, Gavin, while I come to him, someone asked what the difference is between, what was the question?
From theatrical productions to broadcasting.
Okay. Well, I'd say one big difference is that theater is totally scripted most of the time. They're running off of a word-by-word script, where I'd say broadcast production is more, maybe structured is the right word. It's not scripted. It's more, there's an overall structure, but within each kind of scene, anything could happen. Bottles may fly or pants may fly off. Like anything can happen on our stage. So we just have to be ready for everything. And it's like a lot more improv based what we do. Also, like from a technical standpoint, like in a theater audience, it's kind of like this room where everybody's spread out and there's all these different perspectives of the action happening. In broadcast, the like visuals and the audio is all kind of unified from a single perspective, and our crew is we're the people kind of like sculpting that experience through like cutting between cameras and bringing up specific microphones. And so there's a lot more technical craft involved with kind of perspective and lighting and that kind of stuff. Did that answer your question okay? Yeah. Okay, cool.
I'm coming to you next. Who also has a question? You have a question? Okay.
Hello. You guys have a lot of different sets, so whenever like you're constructing a new set for the art department, like the art department is constructing a new set, how much say do you guys have in like that actual construction? Because I know you got to deal with lighting and like where our mic's going to be and everything. Just how much say do you guys really have in that?
I have ultimate authority in that. Now, I would say that we have a lot of say in it. We have a good collaboration with Marcus and his team because we have so many sets and so little space that they understand that like things can only fit in so many places. So it's always about, okay, how much space? They're always working with Nicholas, our floor manager, like, hey, this is what we want to do. Do you have space to fit this? Or let's find a way for this to fold up. The Tuesday night game fight set actually just folds up like a taco and slides right in. It's amazing to see. But yeah, we have a lot of collaboration with them, and it's like we want them to have their vision, but it has to work within our environment. Exactly.
I have a good example of that. So recently we did Glitch Please, and I was working on the logos and branding and opening for all that, and Marcus was working on the set, and he asked me if I had any references or anything I was looking at, and I showed him a few things, and then we went back and forth because he had seen all these things of like glitched out sculptures that people are doing like by hand. And so he threw that idea at me, and I was like, "Oh, I love that. That sounds awesome." And he kind of talked about what he wanted to do. And one of the big things that we had talked about, that we talked to him about, was he was thinking like pinks and blues and like really techno colors, but we wanted to get away from that because of the patch. The patch was all those colors. So that's why we ended up being so colorful and having like a pink and orange palette. And all of that was just a back and forth that we had. And whenever we had the set actually influenced the graphics even more. So it was a real like back and forth conversation. But he set a lot of it where we had that kind of collaboration.
Who else has a question? I'll come to you next.
All right, so I have an on-the-nose question. You guys have obviously upgraded cameras over the time from the handy cams of the original RT podcast to what you have now. So two-part, what are you guys using now? And is there any kind of gear that you wish you had access to or could use for your daily productions, a la RoboCam or something like that?
Michael?
Yeah, I mean, right now we upgraded recently to Blackmagic Studio 4K cameras. They're simple enough. The viewfinder is great to have any camera up instantly come. A 10-inch screen can easily see from anywhere if we're a little bit off. They come great equipped, and much like Patrick said earlier in the pre-panel, they work with our Blackmagic system, and they make it easy to where we don't have to go out and buy 8 pieces of equipment to make one thing work. Everything just works together. So we have been dug into just Blackmagic gear. We're fiddling around with adding GoPros at certain angles. We added a micro studio camera also, again, from Blackmagic, just because of the capability to talk with it easily. But yeah, I mean, I would love a drone camera. We have no need for one. GoPros are going to be the next great addition because we'll have it in small little angles. But I mean, for what we're doing, the Blackmagic cameras really are great. They're low price, they're good quality, and we make it work really well. So it's much better than the handy cams, that's for sure.
We've also looked at RoboCams, especially for shows like the RT podcast, where we're just having to make slight adjustments, and it feels dumb to have a person stand there for an hour and a half to just go pan left, pan right.
I do need to add in, we ended up using a Panasonic PTZ camera for like $1 million butt stream, or a few special ones, and it got on there where the camera would just move on its own back and forth, and even the people on set would get a little bit confused by it. And again, it's great to have that kind of equipment. It added 5 different pieces of stuff needed and a full position away from someone else's already duty, so that's where it is sometimes difficult. But yeah, cameras like that, simple PTZs, if we could have 3 more, I would love it, because we'd utilize it on the wide for those small little adjustments, on-set stuff to be able to use, and they'd be great. And they're fun to play with.
Who has a question? You do?
Hi. From someone who has been running Extra Life streams for the past 2 years with the RT Florida community, what kind of production and setup goes into that from the broadcast end on your side?
A lot of caffeine. Were you a part of the community one that went the week before this year's? I absolutely loved your guys' stream. It was a great way to end the community one. But yeah, I mean, a lot of input goes into it. Last year we started talking about Extra Life, the minor stuff, up in, as early as July, just how we wanted. But when it comes to the tech and anything about Extra Life, it's spontaneous. It's everything changed in the last week. It changed the day of. It's, hey, someone wants to do this, and they already have it together. It's just going about wanting to have fun while doing it, and that makes it a lot easy. We probably had 15 different things ready to go that we never used, because we were just like, hey, this might come up. This might work. But the best way to go about it is just keep it simple, work with what you have fun doing it, and that's the best thing you can do for an event like Extra Life. It's really the best thing you can do.
We had a lot of contingencies in terms of audio too. The setup for that was, we obviously had a lot of the old podcast mics set up on the set, and then those longer ones that you see on the spot. But in certain areas, people stand up and they scream, they yell, they run by all the time. So we would have to hang shotguns from certain areas. And it was the first time we'd ever done something outside this year. So we had to account for the wind. We had to account for random paintballs, as y'all could probably tell. And we even had a cart that we wheeled outside to make sure that we could get a better audio signal. So we had a lot of different setup, and we didn't even get to use all of it just because of how many things we had set up in that instance.
I would say one of the biggest rules we have in our studio is that we always have to be ready for whatever can happen. So because anything can happen, as you've seen. So we always have to be very fluid and just make sure that whatever we have ready, that it is ready to get anything. And that goes for audio and video.
Didn't the midnight party, like the light show, didn't that come together in like 5 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember that, the rave we had, the mini rave. I just went to Gavin, I said, hey, can you make the dance floor light up? And he's like, yeah, give me 10 minutes. And that literally happened 10 minutes later. And that was one of those moments where I just felt like, fuck, we were badass. That was just awesome.
While you were doing that, Mike was also like desperately looking for a song. He's like, it's gotta be dance, it's gotta go.
Sorry if this is a bit of a boring question, but I'm about to graduate as a broadcast production student. When making a resume is always, I feel like the hardest thing is, like, how do I explain what to companies, employers like you guys, what I know how to use, like, because I guess you don't want to list every single, like, oh, I can use all of these types of cameras that, like, I've worked with, but it's like, you can't just, like, make a 20-page long list of, like, oh, I've worked with all these things. Like, what's the best way to go about putting yourself forward in the best way possible with what you've used, I guess?
I would say do a little bit of recon I usually kind of custom make a resume or a cover letter for each job I'm applying to. And a lot of times I'll be kind of sneaky and do some recon to that place that I'm applying to, and I see what kind of gear they're using, or kind of extrapolate the job that I'm applying for and kind of just guess what equipment they're using for that job, and I'll list that gear that's relevant to that position. But yeah, like a separate column or a section at the end listing the equipment that you're familiar with always helps.
And just to kind of piggyback on that statement, when you're working on your demo reel, definitely, like you're saying, kind of scout out your potential employer, see the kind of shots they're working with, the pace they're working with, speeds, angles, all that business, and really show that you know what to do, what they want to do. You know, that you're kind of like on their wavelength, I guess.
Yeah, try to always avoid cookie cutter resumes. One does not work for all. I'm a big believer in just to back up what these guys said, you have to tailor make your resume for the person you're trying to apply to. And because if you don't, it'll get noticed that you aren't. So, and when you do, they really, it makes you feel more like, oh, this is a perfect fit, instead of reading through a long list. All right, so we'll get to more questions in a minute, but I want to be sure that we talk about Tuesday night game fight. So Tuesday night game fight is broadcast's most ambitious production to date. And we thought on the spot was a lot of work. But we have literally been working on this since, I would say, January, if not before. And it's taken every single one of us to work on the creative, and every single one of us to work on the production or the tech, and then every single one of us to actually make the production happen. We're actually having to hire additional people for this. We had to audition. We ended up auditioning like 250 people with some of you, which I recognize here. Thank you for showing up. And we had to whittle that down, and that was really, really tough because we met some incredible people. And so Tuesday night game fight is, does anyone remember the video that Achievement Hunter did with Chloe Grace Moretz? Okay, so that was the inspiration for Tuesday night game fight. Tuesday night game fight is our version of a gaming league, so to speak. It is there are 8 groups in the company who will have a 2-person team representing them. These are team members made up from people in the community. And every Tuesday night there will be 2 matches. It's a 2v2, and then each team that wins and scores points will get league points, and that will take them into playoffs, which will then lead into a championship. So every week the game will be different, but there's a twist, of course. At any time during the game match, the coach, who is the person representing, so Blaine is representing Rooster Teeth's team this year. So at any point during the match, Blaine can trigger what's called a distraction. A distraction is literally something that will be thrown at the people playing, or a handicap that will be placed on them for about a minute. And they have to play through this handicap or this distraction. And each team gets 1 distraction per match. So it literally, we may be throwing food at these people. They may have to play blindfolded. You just never know what it is. So that's where the fun is coming into it. The show will be hosted by Joel and Tyler, and so you can imagine what that's going to be like for us. But this is one of those shows where every day we're excited about it, and every day we're nervous as hell. But I just wanted to show you some of the tests that we've gone through lately, just to give you an idea of how this show has progressed. So in the beginning, so this is the set that Mark has designed for us. This is day one that we brought it out. This is also the first time that we're showing any of this footage. I know you guys have seen the promo probably, but this is the first day we brought it out just under some basic lights. There will be live audiences on both sides, so we're allowing up to 30 people per match to come watch this live. So you'll be able to cheer and root for them, for the teams that come in. This is another test with a few more lights. We actually invested, how much did we invest in lights for this?
I got $20,000.
Yeah, we ended up investing, yeah, quite a bit, just for this show. And as you can see, it's starting to shape up where Bryan is standing. That's where one of the coaches will be standing. So it'll be 3 people on either side. And then this is what it's shaping up to look like. And then the final product will be even more different. So Gavin and Cody have been, where you? Oh, there you are, Cody. Gavin and Cody have been working on this quite a lot, playing with different light sources and different. It's just really cool because I walk through there and these lights swing and they make this whoosh noise when they swing, and it's just really awesome. And I get excited and they get mad at. I can tell they get mad at me because I'm like, do that again, do that again. Like, they're like, well,
we're just
working.
testing, Patrick. We're not ready.
So it's all very exciting, and this is just a little bit of a light test. This is the first time I walked through. They just put the motion lights in, and I saw this, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so fucking awesome!" I am so excited. But just in case, but it was the first time we had anything like this in broadcast, and it was, we just had stationary lights. So for this kind of thing to happen, it was really, really cool. So we can bring the lights back up. And
so we had actually spent our Friday, me and Gavin, working on lights too, instead of going to RTX. We were like, oh cool, this is a chance for everyone to be gone and for us to like do more and play test more. And
Patrick won't bother us.
So yeah, no, Patrick won't be there to be like, oh, can you do that again? And we were like, no, we're moving on.
It's come in handy during some productions too. You saw in one of the earlier reels where Nick and Kirk were doing some kind of like pre-show for On the Spot, and all of a sudden just there was a single light on one of them. That was all over the comms, Cody and Gavin. They were doing an interrogation scene. I think Gavin went to Cody, hey, can we get like a single interrogation light on one of them? And they just switched. It's really cool.
What had happened was they asked for it, right? Like they went up there and were like, oh, we're a spotlight downstage. And I was like, Patrick, we can do that now. He's like, do it, okay.
And what's also exciting is that like now that we have these lights in place, we're going to have the ability to add them to our other shows. So I'm really looking forward to what On the Spot will look like in a few months, maybe for season 10. It'll be an entirely different show because the light system will be incredible. And I keep using that word, and these guys I know are like, quit overselling it.
Center stage is incredible. Like,
yeah, that's well.
We're good.
We're good.
We're good.
All right. So questions about Tuesday Night Game Fight or anything else?
I have a question kind of about something else, but what's it like working at Rooster Teeth versus working at the places you guys worked beforehand?
I can say for me at least, I'm, before this for better part of 9 years, I was a one-man band. So in school, I was used to working with the crew, and I did, almost a decade, pretty much by myself. So I've had fun kind of growing back to being having a team, and everyone is able to specialize on their own departments. I mean, there's 2 guys up here who are exclusively audio. We have a 3rd guy who freelances with us. I mean, this is a pretty good-sized crew for a studio, and it's a blast getting to kind of work on something of this scale.
I went from a college shooting classes, research studies, and random art projects to shooting a rooster pooping at 5 different angles. So it's different and weird.
I went from radio, which is like closed off sound booths and no video whatsoever, so people looking like schlubs all the time, you know, sandals, cut off tank tops. Although sometimes you get that, I guess. But now we work in a studio with, you know, a ton of people who are fun to work with, and, you know, it's nice to be not closed off in a studio. Well, now you are, actually. Mike is now in his own sound booth. But it's a lot of fun.
I'd say there's no status quo at Rooster Teeth, and that's a big difference for me coming from more traditional broadcast and theater work, is that there's no time to get comfortable at Rooster Teeth. The moment you start kind of getting a routine down, doing something, and it starts to get boring, there's another thing falls in your lap, and suddenly you have this really cool new project, or you have 3 really awesome moving lights that you can just play around with over the weekend. And so you're always learning, you're always growing, and sometimes it can be a little bit challenging, but it's always super rewarding, and I'd say that's the biggest difference for me.
So I came from a church, so way more dick jokes.
Yeah, I've definitely moved from live production to now just being in the broadcast studio each week, and just being able to, instead of just going out on location, just shooting and not having any particular effects I can have other than on just general production, I'm able to add my own creative spin to things. Like the theater mode menu has music on it, and no one will ever see that except for cast, but it's just something that sets the tone. It's little things like that that we can all just do with our jobs individually.
I think the biggest thing I'd say about Rooster Teeth is that they treat us well.
Hell yeah.
Nick and I both worked in a place where they looked at us with contempt that we were even there taking money from them to make their radio station work. They treat us like we're important parts, and they feed us and make sure that we're, if we're working through lunch, they'll get us lunch. If we're working through dinner, they'll get us dinner, and make sure that they're nice to us, which is just unheard of in a lot of jobs these days. So that's to me is the best part. They like us. Yeah.
Oh no, I love Jeremy. He gives me shots before some of the shows. No, I went from a desktop support job working in IT and kind of transitioned into doing both like freelance work for them and freelance work in live action and broadcast, and then slowly into broadcast. And it's like a night and day transition. Actually, someone from my old HR department was at one of the panels yesterday and kind of walked up to me and was like, "This is what you're doing now?" And I was like, "It's a little different."
And we have a bartender. He's back there.
Yeah.
I, like Gavin, came from a technical theater background, and so I worked at a few different theaters. And when you're working in theater, there's a lot of like everything's all about safety. Everything's all about doing it by the book. There's like OSHA rules. There's all these different like.
For the record, we are about safety.
We are about safety. That's what I was getting to that. As broadcast, yeah, we want to be safe, but you see our talent, they do their own thing, and then we're like, well, I guess there's broken glass on the ground now. That's okay. And so, but I just wanted to point out that Patrick takes care of us like really well. And since coming here, that's the first thing I noticed, and was like, wow, I've only been here because I've contracted Rooster Teeth for like 3 years before I finally got hired, and coming into broadcast, even just between like departments, there's different feels depending on your manager, and Patrick's done great for us. So.
And I will say, in defense of the off-topic boys, they gave Michael and I a chance to stretch our creative legs. So.
What kind of skills and like just knowledge does it take to eventually transition into a role as a producer for your shows?
Someone takes a sabbatical, leaves you to do all the work. That's me right there. So that's it.
There's a rule in entertainment that never let somebody else do your job, because if they do it well, they'll take it.
That being said, that's one of my favorite things about working here, is that you can have your hand in so many different pots and things you're working on. Some of the best advice, though, I got when I started was from Shane, and that was like, it's really easy to bite off more than you can chew. And so I kind of have to gauge myself on what I'm working on. And there have definitely been times I've gone to Patrick and saying, like, I would love to work on this. And he's like, make sure you are getting sleep.
If you want to be a producer, I would say the biggest thing that you need to have in your arsenal or experience-wise is you have to be a person who learns really well and knows how to take those, whatever your experience is, and not only learn from them, but use them as a resource. Like everything that you have, like you have to know, we have a bell sound effect, or we have chocolate in the back, or we have pickles in the refrigerator, or someone just mentioned that, you know, they're talking about tampons. There's some in the ladies' room. I'm gonna go get some and throw them on set. So, you know, you always have to like think about what you have to provide, it's just this list that grows and grows and grows. And it's like, I'm always throwing things at Mariel like, hey, we need to find a place to do auditions, and it's got to hold so many people, and you have to do the research and make things happen. And there is no, I can't find it. It's like, you have to find it, and you have to do it. One of the things that I always do with interns, I always make them do the shopping for like on the spot and stuff like that. That is, to me, one of the biggest tests for a producer. If you can shop well, I know it sounds really stupid, but if I tell you we need balloons for the popping test, for the popping balloon pop challenge on the spot, if you go and you buy any balloon and you come back and you're like, this is what I bought, I'm like, this won't work. I literally, when Bryan was our intern, I told him I want 4 different types of balloons. I want really expensive, and then really cheap, and everything in between. And he was like, well, don't we just need 4? And I'm like, yeah, but I have to know which one's gonna pop. Easy. And I don't want to go back and forth to the store. So it's stupid little things like that that you have to think about as a producer, like what's going to get the effect that you want, and how do you find what you need, and you have to be, as a producer, you have to be willing not to take no for an answer, and you have to know how to dig deep, and then whatever it is that you can counter on the way, you have to keep it in your arsenal, because you'll have to pull that out sometime.
Hey guys, so I've been in the audience for On the Spot for a lot of times, and I remember the first time I was there, I saw how amazing the crew was, how amazing all the equipment was, and the first time a gym went over my head, I was like, whoa, my God, it's amazing. And I realized that I would love to see more of that, honestly, and just like when you showed a clip of game night, do you guys have any more things that we could watch that could, like, more behind the scenes stuff or more anything along those lines?
I want to say one thing real quick. The one week you weren't there for On the Spot, your picture was on the swipe game, and we were going to put you on the jib, and it was going to be neat, and you weren't there, and I was sad.
We were looking
I
for
was
you.
so sad. Yep.
Yeah, we'll definitely start providing more behind the scenes stuff. I was hoping to have more Tuesday night game fight stuff for you guys, but we're still throwing that stuff together right now and in the finals. So I was kind of nervous about showing that. I saw Hannah over here.
And real quick, Hannah has been taking over RT Life for live action, and she has really like been dedicated to getting more stuff up. And we've been having a lot of talks about specifically trying to get stuff to be in RT Life videos, behind the scenes and stuff.
We actually been recording some of the shows, our comm system. So you hear the talk back and forth, and we've been trying to find the ones. Part of the problem is we don't talk that much because we're pretty good at what we do, so we don't have to yell at each other. It's not like you see on some of the TV shows when they're in a control room. I was yelling, there's like 12 voices going at once, but we have some of those, and we're going to try to find a way to get those in so you can see a behind the scenes aspect of us actually talking and doing the stuff.
We just got to cut the smartass stuff
Yeah.
out.
It's not all like Aaron Sorkin show type stuff.
I just wanted to know what kind of work went into the drunk interview show, because that seemed like it was kind of just all over the place, and I wanted to know how that ended up working out behind the scenes.
No work went into that. No, which drunk one? The RVB or the drunk me versus normal me? The interviewing each other, that was actually, while they used broadcast as studio, that was actually a different department that really came in and shot it. Our main duty was to just have 3 cameras up. Don't touch the middle one at all. Don't. And we just sat there and recorded it. It was all on a different department's task to get that done. I know Stab got on a camera at one point to follow Ashley and her wrestling bit.
Ashley. She's just like doing WWE like shout outs everywhere, and it's just.
So luckily it didn't go too much on our head for that one. We just had to sit there and watch him. It was rough.
Question?
Well, since that one didn't go like as hectic, I know like Extra Life does get really hectic sometimes. What is like the craziest thing you guys had to like perform or like maneuver or work around?
Vomit.
Who vomited?
Gavin.
Oh yeah.
Had Extra Life?
It wasn't Extra Life,
Oh.
but there was an on the spot episode where Kirk and Nick brought a car into the studio. That was maybe one of the craziest things, like having to plan all that out. But it was super rewarding in the end when it actually happened. But yeah, I remember, like, I'm an editor, but I had to like help out with that because it was so crazy.
I remember Extra Life. I think it was 2015. Patrick was on the handy cam as the Gavin and Michael were doing the milk gallon challenge, and just got right into the trash can where they were just vomiting, and that was probably just like the most disgusting thing I've seen at the studio.
Yeah, I would say that anytime like someone's drunk on set, that's when we go into like hyper mode, because not only do we have to follow them, but I have to be very cautious and watch them very carefully and make sure that nothing is going to happen or has happened. Or my office is right on the other side of this stage, and I don't sit in on every production now, but I can hear every production from my desk. And I think there was an episode where Nick from Tim. No wait, who was it? Tim from Kind of Funny, on the off-topic set.
Oh, it was Bolin, wasn't it?
Sean. It was Sean from Screw Attack, or from Game Attack, excuse me, was on Off Topic, and all of a sudden I hear, "Oh, I got glitter in my eye. I don't think that's good." And I just like Googled glitter in eye, and the first thing's like, "Woman loses eye to glitter." I'm like, "Fuck." So I ran out to the first aid kit looking for an eye wash, and there wasn't one. I'm like, so I don't remember if I sent somebody or if I ran and got one, but HEB's right next door, the store, a grocery store, and we went and got an eye wash, and I don't know if you remember this, but I walked on set. I'm like, here you go, because it's just one of those moments where when things start happening, we have to be ready, but not only as a production team, but just as guardians of making sure that everybody's safe. And I know Jeremy fell off a ladder during theater mode once. So, yeah. Anything else? Question?
Well, this is kind of building off of what you guys were just talking about, but like working at Rooster Teeth, especially with your talents, like a lot of the productions are pretty volatile, like anything could happen. So what's some of the ways that you guys kind of prepare for those weird situations, especially working with like drunk cast members and stuff like that?
We always have paper towels, always.
And we bought a bunch of crash pads to make sure people could fall without getting hurt again.
We learned that from when Meg fell.
During free play.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
I mean, we're just always on our toes. There's no preparation. Honestly, there isn't. Every show goes in, it's like, what's just going to happen today? And let's be ready to capture it. That's the best way to go about it. Yeah.
We also have tarps. Those help.
Yeah. We'll put like Duvetine over lights that are on the ground, like those LEDs, and like on the spot, put Duvetine over them because they spill drinks behind them a lot.
Yeah, like how many of you were at On the Spot last night, the live show? Okay, you saw what happened there, right? I didn't expect that, but that's how it is with On the Spot. Well, with any show really, like someone may come to us and say, "Hey, we're going to do this," and we're like, "Okay." Hey, Bernie's going to walk in and do this or whatever, and then something goes way beyond that in the show. And so, yeah, and it goes back to like, we just have to have a studio that's ready for anything. And that's what these guys have to be ready for all the time. Yeah, yeah. Anything else? Oh.
So Matt and Bernie walk up to each of you and say you have an unlimited budget for one thing. What do you go for?
Keep Patrick forever.
That's not fair. Every department wants something different. Like, do I get it? Like, I mean, I would build what is over on our center stage. Like, I would get all that truss, and I would get all 12 of those movers and those blinders, and I would take all that.
Mini fridge for the control room, probably.
That would be great.
Take over all of just stage 5, just broadcast land. That's all it is.
A second grid would be sweet. Like a second podcast set with a grid.
Yes.
Liquor cabinet.
Couch for the.
You see how they're looking at me because
hey, Patrick, do this thing that we
have one. I have one. I would buy more women.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't buy them. I would pay them to come work here.
I was gonna say, isn't that illegal?
That's trafficking, Mariel.
It depends.
If we're exchanging currency for goods and services, I think that's usually how it works.
Yeah, Texas would definitely be there more often. That's for sure. Like we would.
Another question?
Yeah, it was a hard.
Anyone else? Nope. Oh, got one right here.
Okay.
I guess it's just going to be for one of you guys. I'm just curious now. How'd you go from IT to broadcast?
Oh. Yeah, so I was a guardian for like 4 years for all the other RTXs, and I kind of just gotten lucky and moved here and was working in tech. And I got an email from, I think, Brandon or Chris saying they needed PA help from any local guardians, and I showed up and spent the day freelancing. Had a blast, talked to the guy that was in charge of it all, just said I'd love to come back, and so I kind of just started doing that freelance a bunch more. Was in broadcast one day, talked to Patrick, said, you know, if you guys need any help, I'd love to help out here. He started bringing me on, and just more and more freelance work started popping up until I eventually got hired.
There was a long period where everyone was convinced that Ben worked somewhere else in the company, but he didn't work. He worked everywhere but nowhere.
Yeah, it's just facilities, live action, broadcast a lot. When I actually did get hired, I walked into HR, and they were like, we thought you already worked here full time. So
I think Ben is a good example of someone who just knew how to let us know what it is he could do without like pushing himself on us. And so it was easy to like, hey, you know, because it was obvious that he was jockeying for a job, and you know, you learned that, but it wasn't like a constant thing. It was just like, hey, if you ever need help with this, I can do that. And there is going to come a time when you're like, yeah, I do need somebody, you know, all right, let's give you a shot. But, you know, if you're going to drop those hints, you better be ready to back it up. So definitely a good way to do that. So we're just about out of time. The last thing I wanted to play for you guys is that we have from Tuesday Night Game Fight is JT Machinima is one of the teams this year in our league, and they have created a very cool music piece for us that we'll be using in the credits of the show. This is the first time it's being heard outside of the company. So this is a draft. It's not the final, but I did want you guys to hear it. So it's pretty crazy.
With your Tuesday night, tell you what I'm doing with my Tuesday night. Bring the house down in the big game fight. Everybody rally round for the big game fight. Got my team looking meaner than you. You're in the big league. Are you ready for war? No, anybody but no. Guns going down. Better check the score. Gonna strike a nerve. This is game night. Damn bridge is gonna burn. It's a game night. About to have you served like it's date night. We're punching into work. It's a game.
So that should tell you the look and feel that we're going for, and it's going to be crazy. So I hope you all guys watch and enjoy, and thank you so much for showing up today, and thank you for watching all the stupid shit that we put out every week. Without you, we wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be able to keep this group growing. And I can't wait until next year when we're all together again, and we have more stuff to show you and more stuff to talk about. Thanks.